Hello, and thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker with affordable homes and apartments, and I'm licensed to preach and ordained as a minister, and I have my PhD in sacred biblical studies. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. Today I'd like to talk to you on a continued basis of my book, and the new title is Discover the Champion in You and Win the Battle in the War Against Your Giants. It's going to be called Discover the Champion in You and Win the Battle in the War Against All Your Giants, Against Your Giants. And it will be available on barnesandnobles.com as well as my website, booksgaloreandmore.com. And you can get an instant ebook download or you can order it in print. And today's topic we're going to be talking about is delayed but not denied. Your healing is on the way. Delayed but not denied. Your healing is on the way. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Now today I have picked a couple of subjects out of the Bible which I would like to talk about, and I'm 90% sure that this is going to be a two-part series, right? This right here. And this particular segment is also coming out of, yes, chapter 6. Okay, and the few biblical characters that we're going to be centering around are those that were afflicted with physical disabilities. And the first one will be the fact that Jesus healed the demon-possessed man. We're going to be talking about that Jesus heals the paralyzed woman. Jesus heals the man with leprosy. Okay, Jesus heals the paralyzed paralytic with palsy. Jesus heals the leprosy between Samaria. Jesus heals the man with dropsy. And I believe those are the basic titles that we're going to be with dropsy, edema. Let me see, what is it? Edema, and that one was on the Sabbath. Okay, now the topic again is delayed but not denied. Your healing is on the way. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today. And my name is Dr. Sylvia Black, and I am the author of this book, Discover the Champion in You, Win the Battle in the War Against Your Giants. And this will be available on my website at Books Galore and More for an instant ebook download and also in print, as well as Barnes & Noble in the same format. Now the first topic is Jesus heals a demon-possessed man. Okay, Mark 5, 1 through 20, it's found in. Okay, so they arrived at the other side of the lake in the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed with an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. Wherever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his waist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp obstacles and stones. When Jesus saw him at some distance, he saw the man, and the man ran to meet him and bowed low before him. With a shriek he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me?" And Jesus, Son of the Most High, in the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me. Okay, for Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" And he replied, "Name is Legion, because there are many inside this man." Then the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send him to some distant place. And there happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on the hillside nearby. "Send them into the pigs," the spirits begged. "Let them into them." So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd of about 2,000 pigs plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened, and a crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been demon-possessed, who was sitting fully clothed and perfectly sane. How many of y'all know sometimes people are more afraid of you when you're in your right mind than you are if you're blubbering? Okay? Then Jesus heals the paralyzed woman, found in the book of Luke 13, 10 to 17. Okay. Then we're going to talk about also Mark 12:10-14. That's the Jesus heals the man with dropsy. That's found in the book of Matthew 12:10-14. Then we talk about Jesus heals the man with leprosy, and that's found in the book of Matthew 8:1-4. Okay. Then we talk about the 10 healed of leprosy between Samaria and Galilee, found in the book of Luke 17:11-19. Then Jesus heals a paralyzed paralytic man at Capernaum of palsy in the book of Matthew 9:1-8. New Living I usually like to use the New Living Translations. Okay. Then we're going to talk about Jesus heals the man with dropsy, edema, CHF, on the Sabbath, found in the book of Luke 14:1-4. I like to use the New Living Translations. Now, as I had mentioned to you before, I grew up in a very dysfunctional household where my mother, she's been passed on now. She's dead. And but the household that we were raised up in, I had thought at one time that it was demon possessed. I swear. I'm laughing about it, but it's not really funny. I'm just laughing because that's the way I handle things. But the household was so dysfunctional, and I believe what has saved me was the fact that she had went to jail for the first 4 years of my life. And the fact is, what she went to jail for was the fact that she had neglected me. She would listen for my cry, and if I didn't cry, she wouldn't come in there to hear me. She would change my diaper, feed me, and put me back in that cold room, turn the light out and close the door, and would leave me in there until the next time I cried. And somehow I remember, I don't know how, but I remember that the darkness had somehow became mild. It wasn't necessarily my friend, but it was a mild, kind of a soothing kind of a feeling. And I just stopped crying. Don't know, I was a child. Don't ask me how I remember this being such a small little thing. But I remember, and I didn't cry for days. It must have been days, maybe even a week or so. And then the next thing I remember, she busted in the room and whatnot, and I was clawing at my skin, and I was making a hissing sound. And she tried to feed me. I spit the food back out. And then she took me to the doctor, and the doctor realized, the next thing I know, she was in jail for 4 years. And I went to live with her ex-husband and his new wife, me and my sister. Now, it turns out that the man that we lived with was my sister's real father, but my mother lied to this man and told him that I was his daughter, which is not true. She had an affair with another man while she was married to him. So he was neither my father nor neither she was my mother. But those first 4 years of my life that I lived with them, I believe, helped to stabilize me. And it was a wonderful 4 years because me and my sister, we were both happy. We had our own room and everything. And then my mother came out of jail, and first thing she came was to get me. They stuck a needle in my arm, which I found out later was a paternity test, and then I had to go back home and live with her. Well, when you didn't do what this woman wanted you to do, I'm going to try to make a long story short. When you didn't do what she wanted you to do, she went off on you. Okay, there was times when she would take belts, she would get an extension cord and beat you behind with it. Okay, and she'd wait for you to come out of the tub or the shower while you're soaking wet and buck naked, and then she'd whip you for something you did last year, And she would walk around with a sheet over her head, growling like a lion, trying to scare you, And as I had done research and found out that, a lot of the stuff that when people do to you is because of stuff that was done to them. And I realized also in my writings and in my research that hurting people actually hurt people. And I remember sitting around listening to her sad sob stories, telling me about her life. And I'm probably going to write a book entitled, I Just Want to Go Out and Play. Because, now that's a touchy subject. I can't talk too much about that here, but all I wanted to do was just go out and play with the kids. And I had to be, under her, listening to her stories, hanging out with her and her friends. Some good things happened as a result of that, and bad things happened as a result. Now, had I not went back to live with her, had I continued to live with them, see, they're nice people. They were really nice people, but nice people don't make it to heaven. Had I not went back to live with my biological mother, I would have never met my Aunt Nana, who prayed over my soul and got the demon up out of me. Okay? So there's a lot of advantages. When I tell you before about, God uses situations and circumstances to bring about good, but during the situation and the circumstance, it looks like all hell is breaking loose, and sometimes all hell is actually breaking loose. Well, God uses these situations and circumstances to bring about our good. And if you can make it through the storm, and you can make it through to the other side, baby, then you're a champion. You can consider yourself a true champion, but you got to be able to make it through the storm. And it is not, you don't have to be Wonder Woman or Superman in order to make it through the storm. You just have to know what right ingredients to practice. And I've been talking to you about a lot of that. Go back and listen to some of my previous videos. But the demon possession, like I said, I had felt that when my aunt had prayed over me that night. If you ever watched The Exorcist, you will know exactly what went on. It wasn't to that quite extreme. And I didn't grab nothing, whatever. But it was a similar situation where she would lay her hands on my head and whatnot. And I was tossing and turning and carrying on and whatnot. And because I believed that I was possessed. I was doing evil and I didn't know what I was doing. I would say things and I wouldn't know what I was saying. Okay, and when I finally confided in her and I talked to her about it, she asked me what to do, and God was speaking through me to tell her what to do. So she prayed over me, laid hands on me and everything, and then I remember one instance when I said, okay, and this was the devil's voice coming out of my mouth. And I said, okay, you fooled me, now I'm going to get up. Okay, you done your little trickery or whatever, something like that. And then as I began to get up, my legs wouldn't move. And then I began to growl like the devil, like a monster and whatnot. And I started tossing and turning, and she wasn't afraid. She slapped her hand back on my head and just continued to pray. And I just tossed and turned and tossed and turned. And I remember that exact moment when that demon came up out of my spirit. Because from that point on, I slept soundly. And those few hours that I slept felt like a whole night's rest. And I remember I said, I'm going to tell you what I dreamt. She said, no, don't tell me what you dreamt. Okay, now she's also going on to glory, but I know she's up in heaven somewhere. And she's probably one of the angels that has been assigned to me to protect me as I travel on this journey on this earth. One of the last songs that she said was, till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again, okay? So, being demon-possessed isn't necessarily as to the extreme as a lot of people think. It's really a subtle invasion. Okay, being a demon possession is the belief that individuals can be possessed by malevolent, preternatural beings, commonly referred to as demons or devils. Obsessions and possessions of the devil are placed in the rank of apparitions of the evil spirit among humans. It is obsession when the demon acts externally against the person whom it besets. In other words, you want to go right and the demon wants you to go left. Okay, the possession, when he acts internally, agitates them and excites their ill humor, makes them utter blasphemy, speak tongues that they never have learned, discover to them unknown secrets, and inspires them with the knowledge of obscurant things in philosophy or theology. I don't know if you saw a movie recently called 21 or 23, I believe it was, where the man had 21 personalities, and he would record his personalities into the computer talking to himself in each one of the personalities. Okay, descriptions of demonic possessions often include erased memories or personalities, convulsions, epileptic seizures or fits. Not saying that everybody has epileptic seizures or demonically possessed. Okay, and fainting as if one were dying. Other descriptions include access to hidden knowledge, the foreign languages, which is called xenoglossy, drastic changes in vocal intonation. You go from your regular tone to a very deep, or you talk with a growl, and facial structure and sudden appearance in injuries, scratches or marks just appearing on your face out of nowhere, or lesions on superhuman strength. You can throw somebody to the other side of the room. Unlike in channeling, the subject has no control over the possessing entity, and so it will persist until forced to leave the victim, usually through a form of exorcism. which is what my aunt did. She prayed over me, and I considered it pretty much as a form of exorcism. But it wasn't to that extreme, because she was definitely a true righteous woman. I remember going in her bedroom, because she used to pray in her bedroom all the time, and I went in her bedroom and I was up in the air somewhere. I was like, I couldn't stand up straight. I couldn't stand up straight, because I was like, floating around. And these things are supernatural, but when you really get into the spirit, you have to realize that God is a spirit. God can do anything in the spirit. I mean, things can look like things that are not really there in the spirit. He can change things. I mean, so much that when you really get into the spirit, you will realize that a lot of things are going in the spirit. And a lot of things have happened to me in which a friend of mine has witnessed a lot of them. When I walk into a room with other Christians, I feel like that my angelic spirit just comes to life and supernatural things start happening. I tell you, that's a whole nother subject right there. I was running for the bus one time, and the bus was way down there. I was way up here, and I was running and running and running and running. And next thing I know, my feet wasn't on the ground, and I'm like, why can't I run? I'm not picking up any speed. Next thing I know, I was plopped on the bus. And I was like, everybody's like looking at me like, what's they looking at me like that for, See, because I don't have no control over that. If I had control over it, I'd zap myself to Hawaii or something and be getting a suntan or something, or something like that. Now, a demon-possessed person is dangerous because he is not in control of himself. Like I told you, I used to say things that I didn't realize I was saying. I would do things that I didn't realize that I did. But people would say, you just said that. And I said, I didn't say that, And his need for gratification can eclipse whatever pain or suffering his actions may cause. When a person has no empathy for others and no controlling sense of right or wrong, everyone around that person is also at risk. Okay? Now, demonic possessions originate from the process of sinking lower and lower into the clutches of sin. Okay, the Bible teaches that there are 4 types of sin: defiant, willful, accidental, and ignorant. Of course, all wrongdoing is sin, but God deals with our sins in different ways, as outlined in the following chapter. As outlined in the following, paragraph. Okay, so now, when we're talking about these demonic spirits, we're talking about, like it says, that demonic possessions come through the process of sinking lower and lower into sin. And I can almost guarantee you, and I can't guarantee you 100% because I'm not the one you got to answer to, okay? But I can almost guarantee you that if you are demon possessed, or if you are suffering with an emotional issue that's interfering with your daily life, if you are suffering, have any physical ailments, not any physical ailments, but I would say a severe ailment such as the ones we're talking about here, if you're paralyzed, you have leprosy, AIDS, even any of the diseases that are current today, as well as the diseases that were back in the day, I can almost guarantee you that it was an origination of sins. That the reason why you are suffering with the severe emotional issue that is causing you to not be able to function in today's society properly as a human being, a normal human being, to be able to function as a civilized human being, I should say, normally in this society, or that you have an affliction that causes you to be disabled, your body's not the way it was when you were born, or the way God had originated for our bodies to be. Or if there's something internally that you're suffering for, maybe the outside, if you look okay, when I look at you, or when somebody looks at you, they see a perfectly fine person, but when the inside you're suffering emotionally. Okay, and I can tell you truthfully because I have a little bit of evidence to back that up. When I was younger, as I told you, I went through a lot of stuff, and in this book, I bare my soul. So if you want to know the details of what I'm talking about, of the things that happened to me, I'm talking about, everything I talk about is from personal experience. I'm telling you what happened to me, what I did, and how I overcame, and how I became the champion that I am today. Okay, how I became victorious, and how I won this battle. How I'm winning, constantly. It's a constant battle. How I am winning the battle and the war against my giants. When I was younger, like I told you, I got into a lot of activity. When they say activity, they mean that you was in a lot of fights. But I wasn't in a lot of fights. I got beat up. Okay, and we don't even have to discuss the individual who was the head of the initiation. I got punched a lot. I got punched over here on my left side. So what had happened was I had what they call left ventricle hypertrophy. My left ventricle was bigger than my right. My right lung had not collapsed. It was just small. Because I was intubated, they had to intubate me in order so that I could breathe. So they intubated me in my left side of my tube, my lung, and my right lung was smaller. So my left lung was doing the work for both both lungs. I had to wear a back brace for my back, and I walked funny at one time. You know, it looked like I had an amputated leg when the way I walked, and I still walk a little funny, but it's not as bad as it was before. And when I was walking funny, when I was looking like I was, you know, crippled or whatever, I was in sin. I was getting high. I was going to the club. I was partying. I was cursing and whatnot. But I was going to church. But I wasn't into the Word of God. But I was sinning every day. Okay? I talked to God. I prayed to Him. But I was still sinning. And then as I began to give up the sin, as I began to eliminate the sin out of my life, my body began to heal. God showed me ways that I could get my body, you know, to heal my body. He showed me the things that I needed to do. He brought other things into my life that looked like, again, all hell was breaking loose. But what He brought into my life was the beginning of my healing. Okay, for example, I had fell on my back about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I was in the hospital for about a month. I had a metal brace on my back. I could not get up out of the bed without putting that brace on. I had to have they gave me a toilet, a public toilet. I couldn't walk to the bathroom. I had to hop out of my bed and onto the toilet. Okay, I had a cane, and I had a what do you call it, a roller or something like that, a walker. So I had to use all of that. And when I first got out of the hospital, I used the walker. I walked with that walker. I couldn't stand up straight. I could not take that thing off my back, and I couldn't lift up anything heavy. So I was doing that, and guess what? I was still getting high. I was still getting high. But they gave me these pills of Percocet. And Percocet was the perfect thing that I needed to help relax the pressure on my brain. And to help give me some relaxation and some closure. So the thing that looked like it was going to hurt me actually helped me. And this is what I was trying to tell you. So what happened was I asked the doctor, so if he can give me something similar to Percocet, because they didn't want to keep me on Percocet. So they gave me something similar to that, which I found out later is also addictive. You know, but it continued to relieve the pressure on my brain, and it was exactly what I needed. Because I didn't know what I needed until after I was able to experience it. So that fall, that hospital stay was what I needed that was going to lead me into my next destiny of healing. So as I began to heal with taking these pills, I began to eliminate sin. I no longer needed to smoke weed, because when I smoked weed relaxed me. And that's why I smoked it, because it relaxed me and it helped me to be able to deal with the pressures of life. But when I got these pills I was able to take, I didn't have to get high anymore. So it was, you know, a thing where, you know, I could have still got high, but I made the decision not to, because I had been trying to quit anyway. And so this is what I'm saying about, you know, when, you know, God, like I said, I can almost guarantee you that when you are sinning, okay, you're not going to get away with sinning. Sin does not go unpunished. Okay, you're going to suffer from it. You're going to either be emotionally distressed, your body is going to suffer, you might get, anything can happen to you because you don't have the protection of God. You know, I don't want to scare you by telling you things that can happen, but that's the true proof. Because like I said, it happened to me. As long as I was in sin, I walked funny, you know, I wasn't right, I was still groping in darkness, I was aimless, I was a walking dead. You know, I was demonically possessed, didn't know it, even though my aunt prayed over me, because the demons were still inside of me. Until I finally gave up, and I said, Lord, I give my life to you completely. I don't need to get high. You know, I don't need to, you know, to drink alcohol, really, you know what I mean? I have a natural high. You know, I laugh, and I'm a fun-loving person without all that. Okay, so, I know, like I said, I know this is going to be a two-part, so, but I had to emphasize that in this part here, because when you sin, you're sinning against God and everything that He's about. Now, I know it's not always easy to say, you know, okay, well, I'm not going to sin anymore, you know. You've been smoking crack for like 15 years. Okay, but you need help. You can't do it by yourself. You're not Wonder Woman. You're not Superman. You're not the Bionic Woman. You're not the Incredible Hulk. You know, you're a human being. And God knows our faults. And the reason why we have to suffer with sin is because our parents sinned. We're not going to pay the price for what they did, but we have to suffer with it to find our own way, as I had mentioned to you before. And everybody has a choice. We all have a decision that we can make. You can choose to get saved. You can choose to follow Jesus, or you can choose not to follow him. And whatever choice you make, it's okay, because it's your life. You know, I'm not the one that you have to answer to. You know, but when you realize that now you might be suffering with one of these things like leprosy, you might have AIDS, you know, you might have some other terminally ill disease or some kind of disease that's going to cause your body to deteriorate. My sister, for example, I didn't know she was an alcoholic like she was. I didn't realize that she was such an alcoholic and she drank so much. But she was a heavy drinker. She handled the things that happened at home a whole lot differently than I did. And she was a heavy drinker, and now she's in a nursing home, and she's never going back home to her home now. She's going to literally die in that nursing home. Okay, they're prolonging her life as long as they can. She has to be transported around. When she came to my mother's funeral, they had to wheel her around in an ambulance. Okay, she can't get up on her own. She can't move her arms. She can't move her legs. She can barely move her neck and talk. They said her arms are beginning to move a little bit, but she's going to be permanently and forever confined into that nursing home now until the day she dies. And I can only say that that's because of the sin that she was in. She was in a tremendous amount of sin. Now, she had the same option that I did. She chose a different way. She could have repented, and God possibly, I'm sure he would have forgiven her. Because God is a forgiver of sins. You know, he says, you know, you come to me all you heavy laden, and I will give you rest. If you only know who you was talking to and the gifts that God has for you, you wouldn't question me, but you wouldn't doubt. But you would believe and know and understand that God is on the throne, he's not dead, and he's alive and living in each and every one of us. So my thing to you, my brothers and sisters, if you want to live happy, you know, if you want to stay young and youthful all your life and just be joyful in your heart and be able to, you know, continue, you can work until you're 80 years old if your health is okay. But if you want to be able to keep what you had when you was young and 17 years old or 14 or 13 or 9, then you're going to have to turn to God, baby. You're going to have to give your life to him. And you can do it by saying the ABCs of salvation, which is what I say. A, admit that you have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. You do this in the privacy of your own sector. B, believe in Jesus Christ by confessing it to him. And C, you also confess your sins now. You know, and you ask him for forgiveness, you ask him to save you, and you ask him to deliver you and bring you into his life as a child of God, and to wipe the slate clean and to show you how you can continue to live your life now right, so that you don't have to worry about being afflicted with any of these diseases. I told you I done had so many things that come upon me, honey, but it was by the grace of God that saved me every time. But I have to do my part too. I can't just walk blindly into a situation knowing that it's going to hurt me just because God is going to protect me. No, that's stupid. You know, I was blind in those situations. And so God opened up my eyes. So now I have to do my part. So this book will be available on barnesandnobles.com, as well as Books Galore and more, in the form of an ebook, which is an instant download print, and also available on Barnes and Noble. Both sites will be available. We have access to ebook as well as in print. Okay, and you can order. There's discounts for bulk rates if you'd like to get copies. The title is going to be Discover the Champion in You and Win the Battle in the War Against Your Giants. Okay? When you look at it, you got to turn it around and say, I am victorious. You're not defeated, you're victorious. Because obviously my sister had a defeated life. She lived defeated in her mind. She allowed the enemy to convince her that there was no hope for her. So she drank her life away. And I don't know, she probably did other drugs as well, but slowly she began to lose bodily functions. You know, she can't even go to the bathroom by herself. That's horrible. You know, and when she first told me that, I didn't believe it. But when I went to my mother's funeral, I saw it for myself. You know, and, you know, I prayed over her when I went to visit her in the hospital. And because they said that she was about to exit out of here for good. And I got some holy water that I got from church. I prayed over it again. I took it with me. And when I was at home, I laid hands on her in the spirit. And then when I got to her bed, I put my hand, and I laid my hand on her and I prayed over her. And within several hours before we left the hospital that day, she was talking and laughing. And she was much better. It hurts me to my heart to know that she, you know, she's like that. But only thing I can do is pray for her. And I have to just make sure that I keep my life right. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed minister of Brooklyn with affordable homes and apartments. And I'm licensed to preach and ordained as a minister. And I have my PhD in sacred biblical studies. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today for Real Estate and Vision and You.